One of the most useful scores when building out a 360 survey is a response deviation score. The definition of response deviation score will be identified here via example, and will also tell you what it's not. So to edit a 360, I click on the Edit option, and the response deviation scorer exists in the Score tab, and this will only appear if you're working on a 360 instrument. You can calculate averages, etc. So I click on this option, and the first thing it presents me is which roles would you like to calculate this for. So we'll call this response all questions. Okay, so I'm going to copy this down, and I'm going to choose, sorry, I need to underscore this. I'm going to choose a couple of roles here. We'll choose the self and the peers, and we want to evaluate the response deviation on the self and the peers, and we're going to round that to 2 decimal places. I'm going to do it on 2 questions, just for example, and that's really all there is to the setup. But I think to truly see what this does, a good case I've presented here in Excel. So I have 5 test takers. I have 4 peers and 1 self. The way the response deviation score operates is the first thing it does is it averages for the roles you've selected. So I chose peer and self. If people chose 3, 3, 4, 5, 4, the average of those choices for peer and self for that particular question is 3.8. The next step is to take the deviation between the average for the question and the response by each candidate. So the 3 and the 3.8, that difference is 8. The 3 and the 3.8, that difference is 8. For 5, you get 1.2. Step 3 is you get the average for all of those in the question. So I'm averaging all of these values together. If I only do one question, that is my response deviation, 0.64. If multiple questions are chosen, I repeat this operation for each question and then do a final average of all of my final standard deviation averages. So across multiple questions, there are additional calculations that are done. So that is the way it's calculated. What it is not is what did the self answer, what did the peer answer, what's the difference between those two? Or on all questions, what was the average for the peers and how did the self do? That can be done with a formula score where you take the average of the peers or you do some other average calculations and then subtract the self to find that particular deviation. So that is how response deviation works. It can be useful for understanding the underlying data that you're using in a 360, and I hope you understood that calculation on how it operates.